Hi, my name's Aurora. I was born in a little town called Kendall, New York, and lived there until I was 18 years old, more or less. At that point, I moved to Italy. I lived all around the world. I lived in China, Myanmar, the Netherlands, Eritrea, Egypt, Kosovo, Scotland. I'm sure I'm missing some places. So I was 18 the first time I moved abroad. I didn't really have any financial support from, family, but I did have a scholarship and I was able to use that to fund my study abroad. And after that, I worked abroad and was able to just find different jobs. I did a stint with the UN and did some other legal work after studying abroad. So I had my first bachelor's was in philosophy with a minor in fine art, and then I was going for a second bachelor's in fine art and painting, which I only did 1 year of. It managed to get me to China though. I got a scholarship from that because I had started studying Chinese to move to China in 2001, which was a super exciting time. In China, Jiang Zemin was still in power. It was before a lot of the censorship started happening. The arts were exploding. I kept doing a lot of art. But I had already made the decision before I left for China to go to law school. And while I waffled a bit, I delayed and stayed an extra year, I did decide that would at least set me up for some sort of job which I could make a salary. I grew up in the countryside. Before the time of Google, I didn't really know a lot about career options, let's just say. I have been painting since I can remember. I think, like a lot of people that do art, I was one of those kids that like to sit in my bedroom or just on the floor. I didn't even have a desk, which I feel like I have a hunchback probably because of that. Because I spent so many hours as a kid on my bed, on the floor, just drawing and drawing and drawing, and then sometimes painting too. I've always been making art, but I think like everyone during COVID, I had another wave of explosion of art. And I had lived in China in 2003 during SARS and had done all kinds of artwork about that coronavirus. And so in the first week of the pandemic, I thought, okay, I'm gonna document what might last for a week. And I thought about myself and so many people just locked in their living rooms, because I pretty much spend my life these days since the pandemic too in my living room, whether it's working or working out. And so I started taking newspaper articles about what was going on in the pandemic, because I've been using newspaper in my artwork for a long time, and I usually use that as like a background layer because I like to capture the moment, and then I'll paint with color, either sort of the literal walls or scenery or just sort of a gesture to it. And then I was using fabric, recycled fabric, repurposed fabric, and stitching scenes of, couches, tables, and I just started making these living rooms, and I kept making them and making them, and I continued on from there. I did make a brief kind of 10-piece series with, I guess you could say, figures, humanoids, but they weren't any particular people. They were figures with just the noses and mouths, because that's what was covered up during COVID, and it was the part we couldn't see for so long. So just as the first vaccines were coming out and people were re-emerging, I sort of thought about how jumpy people would feel when they would see a nose and mouth for the first time. And at the same time, how happy people were to see that and to re-embrace and reconnect with people. So I made this, series of 10, again with the newspaper in the background and sometimes stitching clothing onto the humanoids, but kind of reflecting on that interesting moment where we were just opening up.